Last episode, the court case Marbury v. Madison established appellate jurisdiction and judicial review, the practice of higher courts such as the Supreme Court, reviewing and changing decisions made by the lower courts such as the state courts. Later, in 1821, the court case Cohens v. Virginia reaffirmed that the Supreme Court will be playing a much larger role in the laws of the United States. I'm Joseph Tu, and this is the story of the landmark court case Cohens v. Virginia. The story begins in 1820 with the two Cohen brothers, Philip and Mendez, involved in the selling of lottery tickets in the state of Virginia. During this time, Congress, under President James Monroe, had passed a bill to establish a national lottery with the intent of raising money for the District of Columbia. The brothers, thought to have been protected under this federal law, continued to indulge in their business, a firm first created by their forefathers, with multiple branches across the United States, utilizing the United States Postal Service as a way of facilitating the tickets. However, their economic endeavors were soon cut short by the authorities of Norfolk, claiming their business associated with the National Lottery was illegal under Virginia state law. The local court convicted the brothers, who were fined $100 for indulging in practices of the selling of lottery tickets that was strictly prohibited in the state of Virginia. This is Cohen Lottery and Exchange Office in Norfolk, Virginia, where the Cohen brothers managed the selling of lottery tickets to residents of the state. The Cohen firm is a leading business in the United States, with offices in New York, Philadelphia, Charleston, Norfolk, and nationwide through mail. The Cohen brothers come from a prominent banking family in Baltimore, with origins from Jacob Cohen Jr., a Bavarian immigrant who emigrated from Rhenish Prussia in 1773 in the years leading up to the American Revolution. He was the origin of this promising business, establishing the first Cohen firm back in 1812. As one of the Cohen brothers and petitioners of the court case, what actions led to your arrest by Virginia state authorities?
Well, we began to sell lottery tickets in Virginia after the United States Congress permitted us to do so. Little did we know that by doing so, the Virginia government would incriminate us for our actions and fine us $100.
Okay, so after the state court ruled that Virginia's law prohibiting lotteries could be enforced, what did you guys decide to do?
We appealed the case because we believed that our conduct of selling lottery ticket was protected by the act that the Congress authorization. Unfortunately, the supplement court decided that lottery tickets were only permitted to be sold in the District of Columbia and upheld the state court's findings.
The year was 1821. The Virginia court had just brought up that the Supreme Court did not have jurisdiction in what was considered a final decision made in a criminal case involved in the state. Although a federal law was directly involved in the case, the state court argued that it was not in the power of the Supreme Court to override a state decision in an effort to consolidate the power of state courts. However, the Supreme Court in Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution asserted their authority in all court cases. The Articles places all cases, laws, and treaties of the nation in the hands of the Supreme Court and its review. This served to further demonstrate the power of the Supreme Court and its authority, even among the lower courts of the state, continuing to reinforce the idea of a strong central government that so many southern states despised. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Marshall. Please have a seat. Judging from the outcome of the case, I can see you and the Supreme Court have done quite well in handling these affairs. Even as the state court made this claim, what was going on through your head?
We knew that the state courts were trying to consolidate their own hold on state affairs that the federal government could not revert, but that simply isn't going to work in this country. As the Supreme Court, it is our job to make sure that cases are in order on all levels, to ensure a just evaluation of the situation and to protect the freedoms of fellow Americans. I knew I had the justification to defend the role of the Supreme Court and consolidate our position as the higher court that we were designed to be, the justice in all levels of this nation.
You brought to light some key points in the Constitution that help to support your claim. Did the decision fit the constitutionality of the nation that so many Americans are concerned with?
Now, the Constitution did not explicitly state the Supreme Court had control over these state courts, but it did describe the power of the Supreme Court, with rule over all court cases. This gives us a higher court the ability to revert and evaluate those cases even when they occur on the state level. I firmly believe that the state laws and constitutions, when repugnant to the Constitution and federal laws, are absolutely void. However, the Virginia court was correct to find the Coens brothers because the Congress had not given jurisdiction to the Coens brothers and they had indeed violated Virginia law.
Mr. Pinckney, what were your first thoughts on the arrest of the Coen brothers when you first heard about this case?
You know, I believe that the idea that the state courts could override a decision of the Congress was preposterous, especially under the Necessary and Proper Clause, which set forth implied powers of the Congress. However, the court case, which initially began as an argument over the selling of something small like lottery tickets, became an important ruling on the question of whether or not the Supreme Court had jurisdiction to hear an appeal in a criminal case.
If the Supreme Court had jurisdiction over this case, then why were the charges against the Coen brothers upheld?
In the end, the Supreme Court used Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution to justify their jurisdiction in this criminal case and all future criminal cases. The article of the Constitution explicitly states that all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority.
And what was the ruling of the court case?
The Supreme Court determined that the act passed by Congress granting the right to sell lottery tickets only applied to the District of Columbia, so Virginia's law of no lottery tickets being sold remained.
The Coens versus Virginia case is considered one of the most significant Supreme Court case rulings in determining that the court had the duty to hear all cases involving constitutional questions and thereby establishing a loose, constructionist view of the Constitution. Furthermore, the case also strengthened the judicial branch by declaring that the federal court had precedence over acts committed by state legislatures. The idea of judicial power, which refers to the power of the judicial branch of government to hear cases and interpret, enforce, or nullify laws, stems from this landmark case in American history.